tracking business stories now. The Central Bank of Nigeria's policy on restriction on daily cash withdrawal has taken off today across the country. Maximum weekly limits for cash withdrawals across all channels by individuals and corporate organizations is 500,000 naira and 5 million naira respectively. Well, the Apex Bank has also ordered deposit money banks not to pay customers making over-the-counter withdrawals of new naira notes again. While individuals or organizations that have a compelling need to withdraw above the approved limits to transact legitimate businesses will have to pay a processing fee of 3% and 5% respectively. We'll have our eyes and ears on that story and we'll bring you details in our subsequent business news reports. Now, reports say that the financial sector, industrial goods among other sectors have maintained their growth trajectory in the current year 2023. That's according to the Quadras Security Limited's report titled Nigeria in 2023, charting the ways forward. Well, it further advises that Nigerian banks will maintain their growth trajectory supported by core income owing to higher loans and investment securities yields in 2023. To other stories now, as the state of insecurity across the country continues to threaten Nigeria's operating environment, economists have commended the President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration for allocating the sum of 2.98 trillion naira to the nation's defense and security sectors in the 2023 budget. Director General of the Franco-Nigerian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Moses Umaru, gave the commendation on TVC's flagship business program, Business Nigeria, last week, noted that improved spending on critical sectors of the economy will boost investors' confidence, which will significantly increase the country's foreign direct investment and spur further economic growth across the country.
Managing the economy, it goes beyond just fixing a single problem. It has to fix problems simultaneously. It's not start to finish model you're going to use to manage an economy. You must fix security first of all, and of course every other thing begins to fall into play. If we're not because the questions they're asking, is it safe? Is it safe to come in? The perception right now is that Nigeria is in an unsecured environment. And we have, of course, we are changing the narrative. We have led delegations to Nigeria in partnership with Business France, for example. And these things are happening. They are saying that, oh, Lagos is a good place to stay. Abuja is a good place to stay. What about some northern parts of the country? Of course, there are pockets of French companies that are there. NG, for example, doing huge projects in the northern part of Nigeria, for example. We have Feed Avenue, for example, doing great projects in the northern part of Nigeria. We have Delhi Frost doing great projects, and of course, Danone and the rest of them. But beyond that, let's look at, we cannot discount the fact that security is a huge problem in Nigeria here. So I think, and that is why I mentioned initially when I looked at the budget, I was like, beautiful, security is the first, is taking the largest chunk, healthcare is taking second, and education third. And of course, that sends a very, very good perception as far as international businesses are also concerned.
Director General of the Franco-Nigerian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Moses Umaru, there speaking exclusively on Business Nigeria. Let's move on now to other stories. As the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission has revealed that crude oil production in Nigeria has hit 1.235 million barrels per day in December 2022. That's representing the highest output since March, when the country produced 1.237 million barrels per day. But data is also just revealing that oil production increased from 1.185 million barrels per day in November to 1.235 million barrels per day in December, indicating that the efforts of the federal government and security agencies in curbing oil theft is successful. Crude oil production in the country had crashed to as low as 0.937 million barrels per day in September last year, which was the lowest output recorded in Nigeria in several years. The crash in crude oil production has been attributed to the activities of pipeline vandals and oil thieves in the oil-producing regions of the country. Let's turn our attention now to global markets as Asian shares rallied today as hopes for less aggressive U.S. rate hikes and the opening of China's borders blustered the outlook for the global economy. MSCI's Products Index of Asia Pacific shares outside Japan rose 1.5% to a 5-month top, with South Korean shares gaining 2.1%. And China's blue chips added at 0.4%, while Hong Kong shares climbed at 1.4%. Japan's Nikkei was closed for a holiday, while the S&P 500 futures added 0.2%. Nasdaq futures 0.3%, Euro Stoxx 50 futures added at 0.5%, while the FTSE futures firmed at 0.4%. Away from global markets, the Swiss National Bank has posted a loss of 132 billion Swiss francs for 2022. That's about $142.67 billion, the biggest loss in its 115-year history. This is bigger than the previously highest loss of 23 billion francs in 2015. Now, all these have pushed the bank into the red zone, stock falling and fixed income markets and bond portfolio is the value of its share, while the appreciation of the Swiss franc also had a negative impact. But the loss is an equivalent to slightly more than the annual gross domestic product GDP of Morocco and the reversal from a 26 billion franc profit in 2021. Now, in a bid to rebuild reserves to cover trade costs and future debts repayments, Argentina and China have formalized the expansion of a currency swap deal. The heads of the Argentine and Chinese central banks confirmed the swap of currencies and newsmen between both countries. The swap comprises the exchange of currency for reinforcement of international reserves of 130 billion yuan and a special activation of 35 billion yuan to compensate operations of the foreign exchange market. And this is to increase its foreign currency reserves and deepen the use of Chinese yuan in the Argentine market. Let's wrap things off now on the business decks with crude oil prices on the international market as they climb today as the borders reopened in China. The world's top crude oil importer boosting the outlook for fuel demand growth and offsetting global recession concerns. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude experiences an upward price review of 3.06% to sell at $76.03 per barrel. Brent crude futures also experienced an upsurge of 2.93%, selling at $80.87 per barrel. Brent light sells for $79.57 per barrel with an upward price review of 0.81%. And for the OPEC basket, crude oil dealers are offering $76.90 per barrel with a price decline of 5.40%.